The advice and opinions expressed by Dr. Granpseesheh and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice.
Dr. Doreen Granpseesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpseesheh.
Dr. Granpseesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpseesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpseesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
I can tell you. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm Shannon Penrod and I am here with the fabulous and wonderful Dr. Doreen Granpseesheh.
Good morning, Shannon. Good morning, everyone.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you. It's
Always.
me too. It's a nice hour in my week that is very pleasant.
It's a lovely little respite that we get to be here with all of you. And if you don't know Dr. Granpseesheh, she is a true expert in the field of autism. She's been working in this field for more than 45 years, is that what we're saying now?
I guess,
it doesn't feel right. But more than 45 years working with children, including very small babies, we would consider teenagers, adults, and everything in between, right? And I don't know anybody, and I've met a lot of people in this world, especially in the autism community. I don't know anybody who is a fiercer advocate for individuals on the spectrum. And for the people who love them.
Thank you so much.
Which is really what this network is about and what this show is about, supporting those individuals. And she's been working hard all those years to do that. I always say that I used to watch The West Wing. I loved The West Wing. I thought it was great. But I always wondered, what's it like for people who follow somebody and say, I want to work with that person, I want to follow them. And so the character of Josh, and he would always talk about, I was looking for that, who was going to be the president that I was going to lay everything down for. And I would watch the show and think, I just don't know what that would be like. And then I met her.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank God I have you on my team.
Listen, and I always say, I would follow you into a burning building because I would know that you were going in for a good reason. And I remember very distinctly the day that I met you. And to be honest, I was already the recipient of so many things from you, but I kind of discounted that. I was like, well, my son is being treated at CARD, and I hear that she's so wonderful, but you know, I had this team of people that were changing our lives every day, and I didn't know how much you had influenced them. I just thought you were the head of the company. What do you have to do with what's happening, right? I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. But then I'm leaking. And then I met you, and it was life-changing.
Oh, you're
it was absolutely life-changing. Like we took a first break because there was a group of people that you got together, and I was invited. I don't know how, but I had to get up and excuse myself and go to the restroom, and I was in the restroom shaking because I was like, this is it. And then when I went home that day, I pulled out, and I got to the Ross, which was 2 doors down.
Yes.
I pulled into the Ross, and I called my husband, and I said, I can't drive home yet.
Oh.
And he said, why? And I said, because I'm shaking. Because I've seen the future, and I have met the person who's taking us there.
You give me goosebumps.
And I said, and now I know what I'm doing. And I went into Ross, and I bought a clock.
Oh, okay.
That hangs in our living room because that clock was going to remind me that time passes and things change. And that I was going to follow you.
That's amazing.
And here I am.
Was that the day we were reviewing skills?
You unveiled skills.
Yeah, it was the first time. I was so excited about that.
Yeah. And every year on the anniversary, a post comes up of mine on Facebook that says, I have seen the future, and it's amazing.
Wow.
And I'm so excited.
That's so amazing.
And I know what I'm going to be doing for the rest of this is way before there was an Autism Live.
Yeah.
And I said, I know what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. I'm going to be following her.
Isn't that insane? And just think about all the stuff we've been through over the years.
Oh my gosh.
Including the past 5 years.
Including my hair going white. Right?
That's also true.
And yes, and you know, selling CARD and leaving CARD, and then in the somebody said something to me about, you know, every year I do a retrospective of the year, and I do like a short video if I have time. And somebody was saying, boy, this year has been interesting. And I said, this was not on anybody's bingo card.
I swear, honest to God,
like if you had said to us in April, when we were doing the 43-hour thing, that in a couple of months,
we're going to own CARD again. Oh my gosh, can you
I would have said, check your temperature. But here we are, and check your temperature. But here we are, and it's, you know, I will say that there's nothing easy. But that's what you used to have on the wall at headquarters for CARD.
Yeah.
Welcome to a community of people who have decided that easy will no longer suffice.
I gotta find that again. I loved that saying because it's true. Like, you know, sometimes it's hard work, but it's all worth it, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. But we're riding the roller coaster. We're
Man,
riding
right now it's
with all of you.
it's a fire hose. We're drinking from a fire hose. It's fun.
But it's great. I mean, I love being of service, so it's amazing.
Yes.
But this is what happens when you're following this amazing woman.
Oh,
and the
God
things
bless.
that you do,
Thank
the
you.
life that you're leading. It's amazing. And being able to help anybody that is watching. If you have a question that you want to write in, the chat is open right now on Facebook. Susie B, we're so happy to see you. Good morning. You can write in your questions, your comments, concerns, whatever questions. We do have a starting topic today, which is dealing with obsessions, because we've had a lot of questions about that. I was going to say perseverations, and then I remembered that that's a $7 word, and we're not using $7 words, right?
Okay.
I remember when the first time that I heard someone say, "Oh, you know, is someone perseverating on that?" And I was like, who are
Is
you
it an
talking to?
offensive word?
No, it's just like a word you don't use in regular language.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, okay.
And then I remember the day that I used it in a sentence, just trippingly off my tongue, and my husband went, "Who are you?
Yeah, yeah.
Perseveration?
Yeah.
It's just not a word."
Yeah.
We talk about obsessions all the time in regular life. So I said dealing with obsessions. And we have a starter question. I feel like I've left something out. You're watching us live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, on Ask Dr. Doreen, on that Facebook and on that YouTube, and possibly on Autism Live's Facebook and YouTube, possibly even on my Facebook. I'm not 100% sure. Our fabulous Chris Desmond is taking care of all of it, which makes me so happy.
Yep.
Anyway, you can be writing in on any of those platforms. If you're not able to watch the show live, and many of you are not, many of you prefer to get it in podcast and listen as you're walking or as you're driving places, that's wonderful. We absolutely love that you download the podcast. Please embrace the advertisements that are there, because that helps us to keep the lights on. Some of you have said, I really just would like it without the advertising, so we made that possible for you. You can go to glow.fm/Autism Live, and if you do that, you get whenever we do a show, either on Autism Live or Ask Dr. Doreen, you get the feed of that without any advertisement on it. So it's a $5 a month or even less if you buy it for the year. Please take advantage of that glow.fm/Autism Live. You can be writing in your questions on any of the places that we're live right now, but you can also always email me, Shannon@autism-live.com. And we love when you send questions to AskDrDoreen.com.
Yes.
Because then Marina gets them. And Marina is so much more on top of things than I am. Let's just be honest. Marina is a whirlwind of magic. Love her so much. Okay, so good morning to Andrea. I had a fabulous Thanksgiving. Did you have a fabulous Thanksgiving?
I did. It was very lovely having the kids home, but you know, a lot of cooking.
Yes,
I will say that.
There is that. There is that. We do a very quiet Thanksgiving. It's just the three of us, and my husband usually works. But my son and I took my mother's thing down to Gobble Gobble Give, and which they give out to the homeless.
Oh yes, I love that.
And it was the sweetest thing, because the guy who took it said, "What is this? It smells so good." And I said, "It is good. You should try some." And he said, "I make it a point to never put anything in my mouth that is meant for the homeless."
Oh, that's
and I
so
was
nice.
like, "That is so
I
sweet."
love that.
But anyway. I digress. Okay, we're going to start with our starter question. Hi, my son is at school. He's 6. He's doing amazing in his academics. No behavior during the teaching hours, but during free play, he's very energetic, like jumping, running, singing, scripting. He has an ABA shadow with him, so he does cheeky things. When she says to be quiet, he sings more loudly. When she says to play, I love that this is described as being cheeky. When she says to play nicely, he runs, jumps, and stomps his feet. Our BCBA doesn't like the idea of making him grounded, which works fantastic with his behaviors, but she hesitates as it's kind of punishment. It doesn't really talk much about obsession. I don't know why, but this was one that was sent in, so I promised that we would answer it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, you have a BCBA on the case, and they should recognize this for what it is, which is obviously the child, he is attention seeking, and parents talk about grounding, and of course BCBAs in general will not really want to do something that they consider to be punitive.
Right.
But you should, if it's something that really works with your child, you want to do something like response cost, which is similar in the sense that it sounds like your child's very high functioning and could easily understand that if they do these specific behaviors, they will lose a token, for instance, and then losing the tokens will lead to not having access to a certain activity, which in essence ends up being the same as grounding, right? But through a token system. And so, clearly, whenever there's a child that it works for them he's attention seeking here, and he's probably getting attention when he does these things. So the BCBA should be able to handle this and should be able to recognize that there's got to be a different way that I can communicate with him, because every time I tell him this, he does more of it.
Yeah.
And, normally in these situations, you'd want to do an actual functional analysis or assessment at least, and identify, is it the way I'm telling him? Is it because he's enjoying the attention he gets when he does the behavior that I'm asking him not to do, or some other behavior? And how can I replace that with him either asking for an opportunity to do that other behavior, or how can I replace it with, let's say, you lost a token, and that is less attention giving than having a dialogue with him. I'm not sure if she's how she's then responding when he does these behaviors.
Yes, it's cracking me up though, because
it is, because it's the BCBA who is experiencing this.
Well, is it the BCBA or is it the aid, the shadow?
Oh, I don't know. I assumed it was the BCBA.
No, I think there's a shadow.
Okay.
And the BCBA is saying, well, I don't really like the idea of grounding him.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if the shadow is part of the school or part of the ABA program.
Yeah, and it's
either way, the BCBA should get in there and teach.
Absolutely, and it's a lot of times BCBAs don't like anything like even response costs. Your BCBA might not like, but there's got to be a modification to either the antecedent or consequence of this behavior, right, in order to fix things.
Yeah.
And the modifications to the antecedents would be how you give the instruction, when you give it, perhaps the location in which you give the instruction, the SD. And then in terms of consequence, there's going to have to be some form of loss, right?
Yeah.
So that he's doing. And obviously they could also increase prompting when they give the instruction. There's a lot of modifications they can make, but you have a BCBA on the case. Whenever there's any kind of challenging behavior, the first thing they should do is analyze the antecedents and consequences and change them. And that's it.
But this whole thing seems sideways to me, right?
Yeah. It's also cute. Like
It
I have
is,
to say,
it's
as you were,
cheeky.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. As you were reading it, I was like, oh my God, I love how cute these kids are, the
Well,
things
it's
they
so
do.
intelligent.
Yeah.
Like, and if you think
Yeah.
about it, like, I don't know how many of you have spent much time in a classroom, because depending on whose classroom you're in, it can be a ginormous yawn.
Yeah, of course. Oh my
Everybody's
God.
about worksheets anymore. I
Yeah,
want to take
yeah,
the worksheets
yeah.
and put them on a bonfire and set them all on fire. Because now I remember being a kid and it was a rarity that you got a worksheet.
Yeah, and you
Back
usually
in the
got
days
it at
when we had a
home.
ditto.
Oh my
Do you
God.
remember dittos?
I do
And they would get
remember
out-
dittos.
They would have this machine, they would get it out and they would print the dittos.
With the
and there was
carbon
a smell.
copies.
And there was a smell from it.
Yeah.
But it was so, like, what the teacher had to go through to make a copy for everybody in the classroom was so time intensive
It's true.
nobody, like, it was a treat when you
It's
got,
true.
it was the smell of it and it was everything was very reinforcing.
Yes,
And
yes.
now, they just like have taken down forests and they just hand out the worksheets
Yes.
because they think of it as a babysitting tool. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. And
Yeah.
there's no good
Yeah.
smell reinforcer. I'm sure it was a chemical smell and we all have some form of something wrong with us because of it. But my point is, school can be very boring
It
now.
can totally
If you're
be,
with
yes.
the wrong teacher, it can be boring.
Yeah.
And our children love entertainment. I would say they love good theater.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm doing something and I'm having a good time and I'm singing and somebody tells me to do it quieter, but if I sing louder, they have an expression on their face, that's good theater.
Yeah.
That's good theater. Why wouldn't I do that?
Well, 100%, and that's one type of attention or reaction that the
Yeah.
child might be looking for. It also occurs to me that sometimes, as you said, Shannon, you bring up these great points. Sometimes our kids get so kind of bored in the classroom that when they're outside, they want to do something physical.
Yes.
And so, like, what was it, running away or skipping or
Yes.
whatever, is getting his energy out. And it could be something as simple as, hey, this particular child every hour or 30 minutes needs to go run around the classroom, like outside for 5 minutes, you know, on a non-contingent schedule.
Yeah.
So that he basically gets his energy out.
His yayas. We
His
always call them
yayas.
yayas. Get your yayas out.
Yeah.
I love when we watch the BTs and they do spaghetti arms where they take the kid's
Yeah.
arms and they go like this.
Yeah.
And then the kid can focus a little
Yeah.
bit because they got their yayas
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So I think he needs some yayas. But obviously your BCBA should have their eyeballs on this and be directing the shadow
right.
on what to do. But we love that he's cheeky because there's the sign of intelligence. There it is. Okay, one more and then I'm going to go to yours, Andrea. Hello, my 13-year-old son has been obsessed with toilet for years now. Every place we go with a bathroom, he wants to go use it and take a picture of it. He also draws them at home and sees videos on YouTube of people going to different bathrooms. He gets very happy when he goes to a lot of bathrooms. We want to decrease the amount of time he wants to use the bathroom. When we go out, this causes problems because he will ask, and when we say you already used the bathroom, he will get upset. He will have behaviors like crying, trying to run to the bathroom if one is not holding his hand. He will curse and say, you better take me to this bathroom or else, and will raise hand and make a fist like he's going to hit us. He will also threaten to leave the house and other multiple things. I do not let him use the bathroom when he has any behaviors, of course. Sometimes we have to remove him from places to the car, which is really hard and emotionally draining. This has been going on for years. We are drained. How do we decrease his need to use all bathroom and see and take picture without all these behaviors? Thanks in advance.
Good. That's a great question, and I'm glad that we're talking a little bit about the subject of actual obsessions,
Yes.
right? Because in psychological terms, an obsession has its own meaning, and I'm not sure it's really what we refer to in ABA or in autism as perseveration.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different,
All right.
right? So obsessions have a very cognitive meaning in psychology. But anyway, because, okay, so let me explain that a little bit.
Because would this be, what would you classify this?
This could be potentially an obsession
Okay.
because obsessions begin with a mental need or a mental desire to control something. Okay, that's the best way I can put it, I guess. Perseverative behavior is not necessarily always that. It could be sometimes that.
Okay.
Kind of like obsessive compulsive behaviors, right? Where you have this need to feel cleaner.
Yeah.
And then you do the compulsion of cleaning. And that's kind of connected, obsessions and compulsions. But perseverative behavior sometimes can be that,
Okay.
can initiate from an obsession. And sometimes it could just be a sensory thing, a pain-related thing, a escape thing. It could be a million other things.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily have to start with a mental, cognitive, like, urgency.
All right.
Okay. So that's important. But let's talk about, like, the whole thing about these, like this one is a great example because this child, for whatever reason, he wants to see, draw, focus on, obsess about toilets.
Yeah.
And we don't know, from the email, we don't know the exact, what aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
It could be, what is this thing and where do things go?
Right.
That are put in there, which many children are like first scared of toilets because like you put something in it and it disappears.
Yeah,
And kids
it's a magic
often,
trick.
Yeah, and kids often wonder if they're going to fall in there and be gone. You
Yes.
know, like it's a scary thing for them. The other aspect of it could be like some children are disturbed by other children are fascinated by the sound of the flush.
Yeah.
Other kids could be visually stimulated in the look of water when it flushes.
Jem had an issue in bathrooms, like he would just disintegrate in bathrooms. It took us years to understand that it was the echo.
I was just about to say that
Okay.
one. Exactly, because bathrooms are not carpeted, so there's always going to be a more hollow sound in bathrooms. And so that could be one as a sensory input issue. So we don't know which one it is for this child, right? It could even be like seeing other people in there or seeing people wash their hands. I don't know. Like, we don't know the detail of it. But clearly, if we want to fall back on just the rules of behavior analysis, the rule is if something is classified as a challenging behavior, if you see it as something that's challenging, which clearly is becoming challenging to the family, right? It's making it difficult for the family. You must replace it in a way, like with some other thing that's more adaptive functional, and you must not allow it to occur or to gain, its results. So in other words, what would happen if you don't allow your child? Did they say the age?
I don't think she did say.
But it's like
13.
13. So this is the bigger issue here for me. And we'll go back to the obsession in a minute. But the bigger issue here for me is that the child is actually controlling the scenario. Because parents are already afraid of what would happen if they don't let the child go to the public bathrooms or any bathroom or whatever. And parent is actually stating that the child will do a bunch of very inappropriate things, including, having a major meltdown about it, but also having gestures that are threatening. And that's not okay. Like, we got to start there. That is much more important. Because imagine if your child did that to someone else in school, another child, a teacher, whatever. It's just not okay. Or even to you, as they're getting older, your child you do not want the child for any reason at all to aggress. No circumstance makes that okay. So it doesn't matter how much of an obsession or need the child has, it just doesn't make it okay, society-wise. So you must, I would suggest that you get support if you're going out, and particularly don't do this in day-to-day living. Like, this is, again, one of those scenarios where we often just let things happen and we think we're going to deal with them when they happen. No. Do this as a practiced exercise. Pick every hour, like let's say 5 o'clock every day, we're going to do this for this week, because if you do it for a week, it'll be over. Every day, get support, so get other people with you who are strong to help, because 13 is already difficult. And just plan this, head into it. Go to a location where your child is definitely going to ask to go to a bathroom. Like, put the thing in place, right? Practice it, evoke the scenario. So go out there, and as soon as your child says, I want to go to this bathroom, say no. And you've said it once, and say it clear and loud, and get all of your support around, because your child's going to go into all of those assertive, aggressive stances, and you're going to help the child and support the child to actually, while they're tantruming, being challenging, whatever, with the help of your friends or support, you're going to go into the car and you're going to go back home. And that's what's going to happen. And you're going to do that every day for 5, 6, 7 days, and your child will stop requesting for that particular bathroom. And you're going to have to do it with areas that are very high MO, like the child generally tends to ask for that particular bathroom. Now, at the same time, so in other words, you're going to block that response from occurring. Now, and please be aware that it could get worse before it gets better. That's the extinction burst. But at the same time, you may really want to discover what it is about the bathroom that is so fascinating for your child. We choose things. So becoming aggressive when not allowed to go to public bathrooms is something you're not allowing. But perhaps you can allow the child to draw bathrooms at home. That's less invasive to anyone.
Yeah, maybe he's a bathroom designer.
Maybe he's a bathroom designer. That's a really good way to put it. Or maybe that if you can determine what aspect of the bathroom is so fascinating or obsessive to him, we can come up with some other alternative way to satisfy that need. So if it's, for instance, I don't know, if he's very just curious about where things go, then hey, take him to Home Depot and show him that there's a hole at the bottom of it and there's a sewage system and like educate him on it.
Make him take a tiling class.
Yeah, exactly.
At Home Depot, they do it for free on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, figure out what it is that he's all into. If it's about the sound, there's lots of other opportunities where he can get the sound. If there's other, so investigate what it is that is the antecedent to this. Why is he fascinated? So that we can help meet his need in a different way. Now, I want to again go back, so that kind of takes care of this scenario, but I want to go back and talk about obsessions, and if they are really, really obsessions like this, then we're talking about a chemical thing that occurs, which is really, a lot has to do with our amount of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that is going through our body and our brain and stuff. And so then I would really recommend for families where there's a severe amount of obsessive compulsive behavior occurring, aside from autism, right? And we can differentiate a little bit, and I'll talk about perseverative stuff. But if there are a lot of kids where there's a significant overlap, like children who are very, very obsessed about a certain pattern of behavior. Things have to be done in this order, or they constantly think about like clocks or ceiling fans or whatever it is, or geographical facts, and it begins to limit them in the sense that, like they can't focus on anything else because they repeatedly ask or go into things like that. Then I would really suggest that you also consult with a psychiatrist. There is nothing wrong with having a little bit of help and support from a medication that helps with obsessions, and that is always going to be the same medication that helps with anxiety. A lot of obsessive behaviors, as I said earlier, are a desire to control something. So, and a desire to control comes from heightened anxiety. So in some situations, we feel anxious for a variety of things that we think. And that anxiety, the only way we can get a control of it is to do some sort of obsessive compulsive behavior. So if you have a child who's really focused on things, I had a child one time, Shannon, he was so obsessed with leaves on trees. And it was impossible because there's trees everywhere. It was like such a difficult thing to help him over. And it just was life-changing for him to start an anti-anxiety medication, which usually it's the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. It just changed him so drastically. It doesn't change the child's personality. It doesn't change anything else. It just reduces that obsessive kind of repetitive thought.
I always think about it like an old-time turntable, and you put the needle on the record, and sometimes there's a groove that's deeper, and the needle gets stuck there.
Absolutely.
And that
perfect analogy. Oh my gosh.
And nobody wants to be stuck in that one place, but sometimes the medication just allows it to get unstuck.
Absolutely.
It doesn't change the record.
Absolutely right. And it adds so significantly to your quality of life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like why, and by the way, even with medication, it's not like you don't have to do the behavioral intervention. They kind of go together. These types of issues like obsessive compulsive, there's tons and tons of research that shows a combination of medication and cognitive behavioral interventions is the most effective way of dealing with them.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. But I do want to also reiterate that there are certain perseverations, like things that kids do repetitively, that may not have anything to do with an obsession. So for example, you have a lot of children who will repetitively body rock, and that is either trying to calm themselves, or in some cases they put something in their abdomen area and body rock over it, which could be reduction of pain. So sometimes you have children who are doing, visual repetitive types of behaviors like this, and that could produce some sort of satisfaction in terms of sensory input visually. There's a lot of repetitive behaviors that are not associated with the obsession part of it, which is, obsession is the portion that's in the mind.
Yeah.
So
I want to do, Reza has written in and said that our volume is a little bit low, and would we please check it? So I'm going to ask Chris to check that, but I'm going to ask others, because sometimes it's your particular
mic or
no, their computer.
I see.
That so I want you to, everybody to check. Tell us if you're also experiencing it low too, because Reza, it might just be your computer or your connection to the whatever, or if you're using headphones.
Or it could have been my mic because my hair was all over it.
It could be a lot of things, but we're checking it, and thank you for telling us.
Chris is saying no, it's all good.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Andrea wrote in, and of course, then I made it go away.
And
Okay,
she
there it
says,
is. Lately, thank you, my 4-year-old son has been having issues with coming home. He always wants to be out and about. Or oot and a boot if you're from Canada. He refuses to get out of the car when we get home.
why do you do these things to me?
I don't know, there's a clown car in my head.
And you know my husband is Canadian,
yes,
and you know
of
everyone in
course.
Canada actually does say that.
Yes. He refuses to get out of the car when we get home.
Yeah.
I have been just keeping him in his car seat and frequently checking on him. Any suggestions on how to make the transition from out and about car to home more easily?
Yes, that's an easy one, Andrea. So just get him a powerful reinforcer that he can only have in the house.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. So we don't know at this point why he's out and about, like he likes to go out. We don't know. But hey, that's not bad. That's a good thing because a lot of kids don't want to go out.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But just make sure that there's whatever. It could be just like, a lollipop that he only gets if he comes inside when you tell him to come inside from the car.
Yeah.
I wouldn't leave him in the car because that's kind of fulfilling what he wants.
Yeah.
You need to compliance is compliance, and these are safety issues. So it's kind of like if you want to come in the car, if I want you to come in the house, you need to come in the house, right? He's a little guy, and so just
But
make
it has
sure.
to be fair, so make it
Absolutely,
worth
give
his while.
him a powerful reinforcer. It's not gonna be forever, by the way. As soon
Right.
as your child gets into the habit of, oh wow, there's gonna be something good waiting for me at home, he'll start coming in.
I just have a million more questions.
Yeah.
Like, what changed? Like, there's a part of me, I always want to get inside our kids' heads to understand, because there's always a reason why none of it's random.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
is it because for 2 years you stayed home and he just now has started to click into this thing about it's so nice to be out and about, and I'm afraid to go back in the house in case we're
Maybe.
stuck there for 2 years?
Yeah, maybe.
Or like, is it that all good things are only happening outside the house? Or did somebody clean the house and there was a smell in the house and now he doesn't want to be in the, like,
Right.
it could be a
or
million
is he more
things.
aware of things in the outside now? So he's more.
Yes.
It doesn't. But like I said, being outside is a good thing for many
Yes.
reasons, and he will get a lot of learning opportunities. But focusing on just this particular thing, just make it a more positive experience for him to come inside when you ask him to.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you because I was talking with somebody this week about a student of theirs. I have to be very careful on permission to talk about it. But I'm always so fascinated by our kiddos and teens' minds. So this is a young man that has limited verbal. He can communicate some of his needs. But not big, long sentences or paragraphs, right? And he's recently become a little disgruntled with some of the things happening in all of his environments. And he tends to write dates. And for years, he's just been writing dates, and different dates. And some of them in the past, some of them in the future.
Interesting.
All of these different dates. But then this very interesting thing happened the other day at school. He got mad at one of the people at school, and he called her a very inappropriate name that he had learned on the playground. The Bubba word, the Bubba witch name.
Okay.
Right? He called her that, and he was told in no uncertain terms, you cannot do that. So then they started to notice, and there was a whole write-up about it. But then anytime this person would do anything that he didn't like, he writes the date of the day that he called her the Bubba witch. And I went, look, and they're like, oh, these dates mean something.
Yes.
But now they're trying to figure out what the different dates mean, and I think we're going to need a physicist to figure it out.
So amazing. Yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
it's one of these things. I wanted to get in my car and drive there because I want to
Yeah.
spend 2 days with this kiddo, and I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
What the code is. That this kiddo also, they've been able to figure out, he's one of the kiddos that really communicates with lines from Disney movies.
Oh,
Right?
right.
And they began to realize he's got enough verbalization now that he can tell them that he is watching 3 separate Disney movies at the same time.
That's amazing.
And that now when they want him to do something, they'll say, can you pause the video for a minute? And he literally will go like this across his forehead to pause the video. He gives them the attention. They say, now you can push play again and go back to your videos. And I said, when you stop and think about how much your brain can hold to have 3 separate Disney movies playing like in your mind sequentially at the same time. This kid is brilliant.
I know.
And if we could crack the code on the date thing, I've been a little obsessed with it.
There's a lot of stuff like this that we honestly, Shannon, still don't understand.
I know.
I had this is why it's such a puzzle, and you know, this is also why I'm very interested in anything that will allow our kids to communicate. Right?
Yes.
That's why I'm kind of like talking to a bunch of folks right now about the spellers, you know, and anything that will allow our kids to communicate, because we don't know what's going on with them. I mean, I had a child who would watch a video, like you said, and then would switch the iPad to play it in German, and then would switch the iPad to play it in Chinese. It was the weirdest thing, but like, and that's how she would watch it. She wanted them in different, like she didn't want it in English anymore. And I always wondered, is she trying to learn a new language? Like, what is she doing? And it's insane, you know, that our kids do these amazing, brilliant things, and they just do. And on that note, by the way, someone had written into, that's what I was looking for on my phone, had written into Instagram, Ask Dr. Doreen.
Okay.
And I just saw the question, it popped up for me yesterday, and it said, do you have any input about Gestalt language processing or natural language acquisition? And I had to remind myself of this. So
there's quite a resurgence in this lately.
yeah, it's interesting that there is.
School is all about this
I
now,
see, I see.
It's in a lot of IEPs, I've been noticing it.
Yeah, so I'm, you know, and I'm pulling knowledge now, which shows you how old I am, because this is stuff that I learned in the 70s, because Gestalt language processing comes back from the 70s, okay? It's very old, and it was Barry Prezant was the guy that wrote the paper on it. Why do I remember
I've interviewed
this?
Barry.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So the concept of it is basically, it's about how we understand language and how we learn language. And the concept, so in normal language development, we call it analytic language learning, is that you learn like one word and then you learn another word and another word and you put them together and that forms bigger sentences. So you're going from small to big. In Gestalt language processing, the concept, well, first of all, it has nothing to do with autism, but it has been applied to autism by saying that kids who have echolalia, so kids who echo or repeat sentences that they see, let's say, on a movie, or delayed echolalia, where they hear something and then they just keep repeating it, and it's in their head, you know, semi like an obsession.
Right.
That what they're doing is they're taking these sentences longer and they're trying to memorize it, and then they will break it down, and each of the words will then be used in new sentences. So they take the Gestalt, the whole, and they break it down. So this is the opposite of analytic, which is you take one and you build it. This is take the whole, break it down, and then rebuild it. And that's the concept of learning through Gestalt language learning as opposed to normal analytic learning. And I don't know that, you know, I think what's coming about right now is, I don't know, and I don't want to be negative about anything because, hey, I've learned from many.
Yeah.
So I think the idea with this is, you know, if a child has echolalia, leave them alone, because what they're doing is they're learning language. I don't know that, so maybe they are learning language, just like I said, maybe this child who was listening to something in German was actually beginning to learn it, right? But I always want to remember, so I'm not against anything, but time. My one thing that applies to every child is just time. Yeah. And so when you have a child whose only way of learning language is by listening, echoing, breaking down longer sentences, and then learning words. That's going to take a very long time, and our kids don't have time.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can teach them individual words and then build that up for them faster, then that's the route I'm going to take.
Yeah.
It's the same arguments that people make in regards to teaching only through, let's say, natural environment or pivotal response, as opposed to starting out with discrete trial. A lot of people are anti-discrete trial, and I keep coming back to that, and I keep saying it's the fastest version of ABA. It's where you learn faster, quicker, lots of material, and you organize it. And if you don't do any of that, it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
And kids don't have time. We don't have time. Our kids are getting older, then academics comes, then there's this, that, and the other thing they have to learn, and they fall behind. So it's about getting the stuff that's faster and doing it so our kids catch up.
Well, and I just feel, and every kiddo is different. Let's leave room for that. And everybody has the right to do whatever they want. But for me, if my kid could have learned it in a natural environment, then he would have.
Yes.
And he didn't,
Yes.
so we needed to try something else. And it was very successful. So there we go. I do want to acknowledge that Andrea wrote back in.
I love that she wrote back. I love that.
Yeah, this is why we love the interaction, right? Because we raised the question, and I said, so what's different? And she said, the weather has changed. It's too cold to go in the backyard now. We used to get home and play in the backyard. Now when we get home from his center, it's dark and cold.
Exactly.
And he doesn't get that big reinforcer of going in the backyard.
So you have to make sure, Andrea, that in the winter months or with time change, whatever it is, there's a different reinforcer. This is what I love about our kids. They're always communicating.
Yeah.
Their challenging behavior is communication. The fact that he's like, I'm just going to stay in the car, lady.
Yeah.
It's like, take me somewhere where I can play.
Yes.
That's all he's asking. So you can set up an indoor playground for him now that it's cold outside. Just think of, smart ways. Go to IKEA, get a bunch of stuff in one of the rooms and surprise him. And that'll be his winter playground. So when he gets home, he can do that. That's all.
Or, or I don't know, because I don't know where you live, how cold it is, but, they have those patio heaters.
Yeah.
And you can put up a bunch of Christmas lights, and he can still run around, get his yayas out in the backyard. Good morning to Autism Journey with Elijah. She's going to be on the show on Monday. She's come out with a whole new line of clothing.
Unbelievable.
It's autism affirmation. It's, she's just moving and shaking. And
I swear to God.
Last night I was watching your live feed, but I couldn't make it to the end. I'm obsessed with Christmas candy right now. I'm not going to make any, but I'm obsessed with videos about making Christmas candy. And on her live feed last night, she was going to make Christmas candy, no-bake cookie candies that were with peanut butter and chocolate, and they had it all going on, and I couldn't stay to the end. I was so mad at myself that I couldn't. But anyway, she says, I have a question about technology. How can you break an obsession on games a child plays on a tablet that is not too positive for more educational games or apps? Eli likes playing games that his friends play, and it's been a stronghold on the gory bloody games. I feel ya. I don't have an answer for this, because it's like we just tried to moderate, but it's so hard in today's society, especially when so much of the socialization is those games. It's so hard.
It is very hard, yeah. I remember also when Sonny was at this age, and it was, you have to moderate. Like as a parent, you have to moderate. There's no option not to moderate, right? Because the games out there are just very gory. Gory is the right word. And boys at a certain age are just drawn to those types of things. And also, as you said, it's more about the social peer aspect of it. And games are no longer, it's not like they're just playing games alone. They play games online with each other. So if you want them to participate, you're going to have to, control the whole scenario. Yeah. I would suggest, you make a list of the games that are the better ones, right? Yeah. They're not, none of them are going to be ideal in our world, because we're just aged out. But but you can pick the ones that are the better ones, right? So the ones that are less gory, let's say. And you can also consult with the parents of the other kids. This is what I would do. I would call the parents of the other kids, and I'd say, hey guys, do you mind? Like, is it okay if we limit our kids to these 5 games? and or these three, and then go about it that way, because you don't want to switch off his social life either, and also, you know, you want to allow him to do that, but at the same time, there's a lot of research and literature that shows kids do imitate what they see on these games, and it's bad. So I think that it is important to get a handle on it and select the ones that everybody's okay with. The other thing you could make sure that you're doing is make sure that Eli is aware of fantasy versus reality. And that's really important for, you know, as kids grow up, they start to realize that there's a difference between what they can do on a game versus what they can do in real life. Sometimes our kids don't get that message, and that's dangerous for everyone. So you really want to just have those conversations with him and make sure that he understands this is a game and this is real.
I know for us, Stan Kurtz gave me some good advice. Stan Kurtz said to me, whatever game that your child is playing, play it with them.
Yes.
And see what that's like so that you actually know what's going on. I will say there was another dad that we've had on the show a couple of times, Stuart Duncan. He is the moderator and creator of Autcraft. So if your son is playing Minecraft, you can sign him up for an account on Autcraft. It's
so
free.
Nice.
And there are people who moderate, and they'll let you know if he's said anything that's inappropriate or if anybody has said anything that's inappropriate to him. And it's a whole world where they can play together with a little bit more safety and practice rules, right? But the other thing for us, I mean, we're a little weird. I love to swear. I think you know this about me, that I'm somebody who swears. It's a hobby that I have, swearing. And it's an outlet, you know. I don't drink, smoke, or do other things anymore. I swear. It's the thing that I do. And I think when most people have their child and their child begins to pick up natural language, you stop swearing for a couple of years. But we didn't have that. So I continued to swear more because my child wasn't picking it up. Right? The angst of that. So then later, when Jem could talk, he wanted to swear because it had been so prevalent in our house. And we had rules about it, about, you know, well, you can swear in the car with mom if nobody else is there. But outside the car, you cannot swear. And then we ended up having to have those same kinds of rules around video games, that when you're playing with your friends, you can use certain language, but there's a limit, even on the video games. And if we say these words, which are not appropriate, then that's when the games go off. So the minute something would be said, oh, now the game, I go, oh, you're forcing me to turn it off now because you said the thing. And I would say, oh, see, you're teaching me. You're teaching me that you can't play the game and not say those words. He hated that when I would say that.
Oh my gosh.
But because it would make him furious, because he knew that he was in control of it, that the rules were there. But that the game we're done with the game for today because you used the word that mom said you couldn't use. That's what we did. I will say that I was not always popular, Laurie. So Autcraft, yes, Autcraft. You look it up, and there's a whole process you have to apply. And tell Stuart that Shannon sent you. He's a wonderful dad. With 2 kids on the spectrum, and I believe that Stuart also now has the diagnosis himself.
Is he still doing Autcraft?
He's still doing Autcraft.
That's awesome.
And they do a Patreon where if you decide that you would like to give money to it, because he does have moderators that do it as well. Anyway.
That's awesome,
so,
I love that.
But I will say, and people judge me for it, but I didn't tell my child he couldn't swear at all.
I
didn't.
No,
I haven't stopped swearing.
No, I mean, and that's a very personal choice of, you know, I mean, a lot of families, like if you swear you have to put a nickel in the jar or whatever, right?
There was the old bar of soap in the mouth, right?
Well, that's
not bad.
That's punishment. But it's like, I mean, it's just a familial choice, right?
Yes. And we are weird that way. Okay, I think I have time for one more question.
I love these, you know, on Instagram, you just made me think there's a British family who swears a lot, and you have their little daughter who I think is 3. And sometimes the things that she says just crack me up. I'm dying because she's seen it around. Yeah.
It's so funny. Hi, Dr. Doreen. My son is 3 years old. We received a medical diagnosis of autism recently. We're on a wait list for ABA. When he is at home, he generally follows directions and get along with parents. But when he is at school, special education with no one-to-one aid, he shows challenging behavior such as grabbing items and peers and biting his teachers and peers. He also said, I want to make a peer's name feel sad. How can I help him with this social behavior? Thank you in advance.
I never understand why kids are still on wait lists, because like there are so many ABA providers and you're not really allowed to be on a wait list that long anymore because payers mandate that they start services. So I don't know, here's my number one suggestion, which isn't really answering this question, but it is giving you a different path. Pull him out of school because he's 3 and do ABA.
Yeah.
Because one of the things parents don't realize is that ABA organizations are very overloaded in the afternoon hours when kids get out of school and completely open in the morning hours when most kids are in school. So when a child is 3 and they're not really mandated to be in school yet, I would take advantage and do all ABA all day long, intensive. 3 is the age where your insurance company and the entire world knows you're supposed to be doing intensive ABA, which means all day long, every day. And I know that sounds shocking, but it is the best thing the single best thing you could do for your child right now, because think of it as very luxurious, wonderful one-to-one tutoring where your child is learning everything that they might be behind on, including social behavior and play and so on, so that when your child is actually reintegrated into school, let's say at age 5 in a couple of years, he is able to benefit, he can interact, he can dialogue, talk to people, whatever it is, follow instructions, etc., much, much, much better. So that would be and clearly he's not having that success in school right now. And that parents would sometimes ask me, why do you pull the child out? And I'd say, because when I put him in school, I want him to be successful. I want the experience to be positive. They're going to be in that the type of program for 12 more years. Like, I want them to have a positive experience in school. I don't want them to start out with a negative experience. And because you're not there, you don't know what's going on in school. You have such less control over things in school, and you have the incredible luxury of him being 3 right now.
Yeah.
So pull him out and just do ABA for the next couple of years.
Absolutely. I mean, that is in fact what we did. And I hear the concern in this saying, I want to make so-and-so feel sad. I just want to say to you, at 3, I don't think he understands what that means. And to him, it means something particular. And it could mean that when people are sad, somebody gives them a cookie, right? I don't think the literal
or
meaning...
it could be that he's being bullied by so-and-so. I mean, we just don't know.
Yeah. But I agree with Dr. Granpseesheh that every study shows that the best place for a 3-year-old on the autism spectrum is in an early intensive behavioral intervention, ABA
program.
And when you think about, if you could dream and do absolutely anything for your child who's 3, wouldn't you want to give them like a really interactive playmate?
Yes.
Who is making every single moment a teaching moment, and about making them feel like they can do.
Yes.
That's what good ABA would be.
Yes.
But let's talk about the wait lists, because their wait lists are everywhere. And I love that you say that they shouldn't be, but I say this to parents whenever I can. The phrase that you need to use, this is about insurance companies getting away with all kinds of things.
Well, yes, and also, I want to answer this question too, so let me just memorize it.
Okay.
But also, it's because the insurance companies have trained ABA providers to not ask for this anymore. It's just ridiculous to me, because there's this, especially for a 3-year-old, my gosh. So, the field of ABA started out, as you know, Shannon, being all about intensive early. So like 40 hours a week, starting at age 2, really hit it hard so that by the time the child is 6 or 7, they're done
Right.
or integrated and doing really well. And the payers, the insurance companies, didn't really want to interact or deal with that. So as a result, over time, it just has gotten less and less and less. And then most people now think ABA should be done at like 10 hours a week.
That's crazy.
No, that's not the model that works. There's so much stuff that needs to be taught. We need the intensive hours to do it. It's not about ABA providers are just money hungry. No, because they have lots of kids. Anyone can be doing 10 hours with 4 kids or 40 hours with your kid.
Right.
And that's what's important. It doesn't matter to the ABA provider. In fact, it's in a lot of ways, it's easier to schedule 4 different kids getting 10 hours.
Right.
But it's more about what your child needs. And what your child needs, especially at 3, I don't care what the functioning level is, take advantage of this situation and do the intensive therapy. You're going to really, really benefit. You'll see massive improvements.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't know that ABA providers have openings in the mornings.
Yes.
So there shouldn't be a wait list for you 3-year-olds.
No. But I want to say that it's even more than just ABA right now. After COVID, all of these providers, if your mother is going for a test, they're going to say to you, we can't do it for 6 months. This is across the board. And they say, well, we don't have staff because of COVID. We're understaffed, da, 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 da. None of this should matter to you, whether it's ABA or your mother-in-law or your medical tests. The phrase you need to call your insurance company today and say, we have been on a waiting list. This is a denial of access to care.
Yeah.
We would like to start services within the next 30 days. This, and I'm going to report this as a denial of access to care. You're paying a premium to get access to care. And if they say, well, we can't staff it, therefore we can't do it, they have to give you another provider. They have to get somebody out of network. They have to send your mother-in-law to a hospital that they do not have in network and pay out of network if they don't have staff. Everybody needs to do this for yourself. Denial of access to care.
Yeah.
This is, you don't wait on a waiting list in the United States for long. We just need to get that word out. You have a question. We have so many other things.
I just
Go
want to
for
make
it.
sure I get to the questions where
Yeah,
people write directly into
Yes.
me. And this is, Karen wrote and said, we've been doing intensive toilet training the last few days and we're successful with him in his underwear. Now today, I put his trousers on and we had accidents. Any advice? And so, Karen, don't give up. This is really great that you had success. Just go back a step. It's, it's like a diet. People think like if they have an infringement, you got to go to day 1. You don't. Just go back a step. So wherever you were, go back a step and redo that. And don't give up. There will be accidents once in a while, but there will be fewer and fewer, and then they'll be gone.
Yeah.
So I just want to really encourage you to keep going.
I always remember that. Go back to the last step that
Exactly.
worked. The last step that worked.
Exactly.
Go back there. Don't lose ground. We're so out of time, but we appreciate you so much. I want to say that tomorrow, Christina Adams is going to be on the show.
Oh, how wonderful.
So Christina Adams, who was the author of A Real Boy, which was the book that was given to me by Logan Shepard's parents.
Yeah.
They said, read about, and it talks about Dr. Granpseesheh and about starting
Such a
treatment
good
at
book.
CARD. And it's where I got introduced to Hank and what a rock star Hank is. If you don't know Hank, wait and you'll hear that story sometime. But anyway, and now Christina has written a second book, Camel Crazy. She's been touring the world, going and speaking about camel milk.
I know, it's
and
amazing.
So she's got a bunch of pictures. She's going to show us all the places that she's been and all the people that she's met. So we'll have that conversation with her tomorrow. I just want to say that we've got so many great shows coming up. Next Monday, we are going to have, Lori's going to be on with us. Talking about her new line of clothing, which I'm really excited about. Then you're going to be with us on Tuesday. I keep forgetting who the guest is on Wednesday, and it's somebody fabulous, can't remember. But then the following Monday, Dr. Jonathan Tartbox is going to be joining us.
Nice.
And then we're going to do the last show of the year with you 2 weeks from today.
Great.
So
Sounds good.
Filled with fun things that you guys will want to be here for. So don't go too far away. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
And we're giving a hug to you and give one to your kiddos. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you there.